Hello there, welcome to another Upgrade Your OET by Bose Learning OET Listening lesson. In this lesson, we're going to be doing some intensive listening, and this is designed as a skills builder. So, we're going to help train your ear to get you familiar with listening to L1 speakers of English. In this case, this is a tricky one because you're going to be listening to an interviewer interviewing a gentleman who's speaking with a Scottish accent. So in the OET, you won't actually get very strong accents to listen to, but you will get L1 speakers. And for your own skills, I think it's really good that you listen to a variety of L1 speakers. And we're also going to be building your OET test taking skills. So 3 things to cover in this lesson. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Sona and I'm a premium preparation provider of the OET. So, as I say, we're going to be listening to an interview extract from the BBC, who have interviewed Professor Alan McNally. Now, recently, the UK has changed over from mass testing using the PCR tests to using lateral flow tests, LFT tests, instead. First of all, we're going to start off with some ear training, and I want you to fill in the gaps, please, to find out who Professor McNally is. Let's have a listen.
Let's speak now to Professor Alan McNally, who oversaw the UK's first mass PCR testing lab.
Okay, so let's listen again with the answers.
Let's speak now to Professor Alan McNally, who oversaw the UK's first mass PCR testing lab.
And what do we mean by oversaw, mass and lab? Well, oversaw comes from oversee, which means to watch over something in order to check that it works or is happening correctly. So he oversaw, he was the project manager, the project lead, the scientific lead in this case, of the UK's first. Mass, of course, means when this happens in bulk, testing laboratory, lab. Okay, a little bit more ear training for you then. What is the interviewer's first question? Try and fill in the gaps for me.
Good morning to you, Professor. I suppose my first question is, what do you make of this change? Is it right?
How did you go? Let's listen.
Good morning to you, Professor. I suppose my first question is, what do you make of this change? Is it right?
And what does it mean? What do you make of this change? If you make something of whatever it is you're talking about, it means to understand. So the interviewer is asking Professor McNally, what do you think? What do you understand by this change? Is it right? Are we moving in the right direction in terms of testing for COVID-19? Okay, time to do some OET training then. Question number 3, what is Professor Alan McNally's opinion of the change? Let's look at our options. It is not a good idea, so he thinks it's a bad idea. This change could have happened earlier, but it's generally a good idea. So we have it's a bad idea, it's a good idea, but could have happened earlier. Or we should wait and see what happens before making any changes. So negative, positive, and wait and see. Have a listen.
Yes, I think the time has been right for quite some time now to switch over to trusting lateral flow tests. The lateral flow tests are excellent at detecting people with COVID and at levels where they would probably be infectious.
And the answer is B. It could have happened earlier. It's a good idea, but actually we could have just done this change. We could have just made this change much earlier. So he says, let's listen again, and you can follow what he says this time.
Yes, I think the time has been right for quite some time now to switch.
It's been right for quite some time now. It's overdue. You could have done it before. It's been right for quite some time now. Okay, time for the next bit of OET training. Does Professor McNally think the UK public are competent enough to test themselves regularly? So, does he think me and my fellow UK citizens are competent? Yes, people are very good at it. No, people often make mistakes when doing it. Or young people are good at testing, but older people are not. So again, we have something positive, something negative, and then, well, it depends on your age. Let's listen.
Everyone's got very good at using lateral flows as well. We've all got used to sticking the swabs up our nose, and we've all probably got quite expert at performing these tests ourselves.
What did you think then? It's option A. He's actually is quite confident that people can do this well. Let's do a bit of ear training connected to this then. What does he say? Can you fill in the gaps?
Everyone's got very good at using lateral flows as well. We've all got used to sticking the swabs up our nose, and we've all probably got quite expert at performing these tests ourselves.
Okay, listen again with the answers.
Everyone's got very good at using lateral flows as well. We've all got used to sticking the swabs up our nose, and we've all probably got quite expert at performing these tests ourselves.
But what does he mean? So if you're good at something, obviously you are quite competent at it. This is quite a nice one. It's very informal. Used to sticking the swabs up our nose. Sticking the swabs up our nose, of course, inserting them. Listen to the pronunciation here. Swabs. Sticking is not talking about the stick, it just means putting or inserting in this case. And quite expert, yeah, quite good. In British English, quite good, quite expert means, good actually. It means very good. That's just a cultural thing. We often say something like quite or rather when we mean very. Okay, next bit of OET training. Are the lateral flow tests reliable? So your main word here is reliable, either to a certain extent. They are, but PCR tests are better. So lateral flow are okay, but PCR are better. We think they are reliable, but there is not enough data to back this up. So this is an assumption rather than proof, or they have been proven to be very reliable. So always look for differences and similarities. Pick out anything that makes one different from the other. If they're similar, they'll be different in some way. What is that difference? Let's listen and find out.
All of the lateral flows that are in use in the UK have been very heavily tested and put through the paces by UK HSAs, so we can be confident in the tests that we have in the country.
What did you get? It's option C. So why is it option C? Let's do some ear training. Can you fill in the gaps?
All of the lateral flows that are in use in the UK have been very heavily tested and put through the paces by UK HSAs, so we can be confident in the tests that we have in the country.
Well, they have been heavily tested and put through their paces. So if something has been heavily tested, it's been really rigorously tested, and put through their paces means to check. We have checked that a person or a machine, in this case the tests, are good at doing something. They have been tested well.
All of the lateral flows that are in use in the UK have been very heavily tested and put through the paces by UK HSAs, so we can be confident in the tests that we have in the country.
Okay, next question for you. The interviewer says that PCRs have been the gold standard of testing. What does he mean? That they're expensive, not accurate, or the information they give is invaluable. Invaluable, of course, here means very, very useful, extremely useful. Let's listen.
I suppose the problem is that lateral flows can only give us so much information, can't we? We've been told for ages that PCRs are kind of the gold standard. They not only confirm with greater reliability, but they also give the scientists more information about different mutations and varieties, variations of the virus that are going on out there.
Okay, and it's that they are invaluable. And let's listen with the tape script, with the transcript now.
I suppose the problem is that lateral flows can only give us so much information, can't we? We've been told for ages that PCRs are kind of the gold standard. They not only confirm with greater reliability, but they also give the scientists more information about different mutations and varieties, variations of the virus that are going on out there.
And we have this idea they not only do something, but they also, so they do this and they do that as well. They are invaluable. But does Professor McNally agree? What does he think? Does Professor McNally agree that moving from PCR testing to lateral flow testing will deprive scientists of valuable information? Yes, he agrees because they do not give us a complete picture. No, because epidemiologists have never needed to know every single piece of information. Or perhaps we need to wait and see again. So yes, no, or maybe we have to wait and see.
I actually don't think so. I think if infectious disease surveillance and epidemiology has been going on for a long time before COVID, and we've never relied on having access to every single isolate that causes disease, and you actually don't need that.
And the answer here is B, because he says we've never relied on. Let's listen.
I actually don't think so. I think if infectious disease surveillance and epidemiology has been going on for a long time before COVID, and we've never relied on having access to every single isolate that causes disease, and you actually don't need that.
We've never relied on having access to every single item, every single piece of information. You don't need it. Okay, last question coming up. Why does Professor McNally mention the ONS survey? For those of you who don't know that, this is the Office of National Statistics in the UK. They regularly send out surveys to random people in the UK and they ask them to complete it. You don't have to, but most people, or a lot of people do. I know I do if someone sends me a survey. And I was actually tested in this way. They asked me to do a PCR test quite randomly, just blindly, and I did that. Mine was negative, and I think lots of people have been asked to do that in a similar way. So why does he mention this? Is it to criticise it because it does not contribute to their studies, to explain that his colleagues are under a lot of pressure, or to say it's a good indicator of the current situation? Let's listen.
We have the ONS survey, which is a remarkable snapshot of what's happening in the country, and all of those ONS samples will continue to be PCR'd.
Okay, and of course it's to praise them, to say it's a good indicator of the current situation. In fact, this is what he says.
We have the ONS survey, which is a remarkable snapshot of what's happening in the country, and all of those ONS samples will continue to be PCR'd.
And we've got two nice things here, a remarkable snapshot. It's a good picture, it's a good indicator. Remarkable means very good, of course. And we have a lovely, very English vocabulary type of expression here, PCR'd. So we've taken the test, the PCR test, and he's made it into a verb. To be PCR'd means, of course, to be PCR tested. We can do this in English when we're talking. We take something and a noun and make it into a verb. So don't be surprised to hear things like this. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this lesson, this skills builder lesson. As I always say, don't just practice OET tests, try and build your skills as well, do some ear training, try and listen to as much English as you can. We'll be doing lots of these on my channel, so please subscribe, press that little bell button because then you'll know when I've put up a new video for you. And if you want to watch another video right now, why not watch a video on the OET Listening Part C, but this time, instead of an interview, you can listen to the presentation. Thanks for watching. See you again next time. Take care. Bye-bye.